What happens when a CEO goes undercover and spills a tray of wine at a hotel banquet only to find out the staff is punished for it? Yarden Carter stood in the back of the hotel kitchen, hair dyed a dull brown and a trimmed beard hiding most of his face. His usual tailored suits were replaced with a cheap black dress shirt and slacks, the kind banquet servers wore. No one would guess he was the man who bought this hotel chain 7 years ago, when it only had 3 locations. Now it had 12 across the state. He'd let the district managers handle most of the daily operations. Maybe too much. 2 weeks ago, he'd gotten a confusing customer complaint. A bride from a wedding banquet said her night was perfect, except she felt sorry for the waitstaff. Something about how scared they looked. That stuck with him. Not angry, not rude, scared. He needed to see things for himself. His alias today was Eli, a transfer from a different location. This made sense to the staff. Banquet events were short-staffed lately. A flu outbreak had knocked out 5 employees, and good part-timers were harder to find than ever. Yarden had never met the staff here in person, and thanks to the chain's size and his departure from hands-on operations, nobody suspected a thing. The banquet manager, a lean man with a tight jaw named Dennis, gave him a quick rundown. "This isn't your first time, right?" Yarden shook his head. "No, I've done weddings before." "Good. Then don't screw up. You drop a glass, you pay for it. You spill wine, we take it out of your check. That clear?" Yarden blinked. "Wait, really?" Dennis didn't flinch. "We're not running a charity. The bride's dad is loaded, and he's expecting top-tier service. You mess up, you own it." Yarden nodded slowly, biting his tongue. This was already bad. The ballroom was glowing with string lights, tables gleaming with silverware. Guests were laughing, music playing. It looked perfect from the outside. But behind the scenes? Chaos. In the prep room, Yarden met Kayla Whitmore, a young woman with a sharp ponytail and worn-out sneakers. She was moving fast, balancing plates on both arms. "Hey, new guy. You're with me," she said, then looked him over. "You're not gonna slow me down, right?" "I'll try not to." "Good. And don't spill anything. Dennis'll have a fit and dock you. Last week I lost $40 'cause a kid knocked into me." Yarden raised an eyebrow. "Even if it's not your fault?" Kayla laughed bitterly. "Doesn't matter. He says it's about the presentation." As they moved through the crowd, Yarden could feel the tension in the air. The servers smiled for guests, but behind those smiles was pressure. He watched one girl, no older than 19, quietly wipe her eyes in the hallway after breaking a wine glass. "Hey," he whispered to Kayla. "Does that happen a lot?" "Every weekend." She didn't even look up. "People cry in the supply closet. You'll get used to it." He didn't want to. Halfway through dinner service, Yarden was carrying a tray of full wine glasses when a guest turned suddenly, knocking into him. The tray tilted. Too late. The glasses crashed onto the floor, wine splashing across the carpet. Silence. Heads turned. Dennis stormed over, eyes locked on Yarden. "What the hell happened?" "A guest bumped me," Yarden said, voice even. Dennis didn't care. "You're paying for the glasses. That's $48. I'll take it out of your check." "You saw it wasn't my fault." Dennis leaned closer. "I said you pay. You want to work here again?" Kayla stepped forward. "It really wasn't his fault, Dennis. You can't keep doing this." Dennis snapped. "You want to pay for it instead?" Kayla froze. Her jaw clenched, but she stayed quiet. Yarden looked around. None of the other staff said a word. They were used to this. He cleaned up the glass without another word, but his hands trembled. Not from the wine. From anger. Back in the kitchen, he caught Kayla alone. "You okay?" She looked at him. Really looked at him this time. "No. But I need this job." "How long you been here?" 2 years. I've seen 4 people quit mid-event. You stay long enough, you stop thinking it's wrong. You just try not to get noticed." Yarden felt a weight in his chest. He thought he knew his business. He didn't know this. He walked out to the loading dock alone, pretending to catch air. He pulled out his phone and stared at his reflection in the screen. Beneath the wig, the beard, the fake name, he saw a man who'd let his company become something he didn't recognize. He wasn't going to walk away this time. The next morning, Yarden arrived before sunrise, blending in with the sleepy-eyed kitchen crew. He wore the same stiff black uniform from the day before, still faintly smelling of wine from the spill. The cleaning staff gave him a glance, but said nothing. Everyone kept to their lanes here. The breakfast shift was a different rhythm, no music, no speeches, just trays of lukewarm eggs, bacon, and fruit cups moved out to conference rooms and early morning meetings. Still, the tension hadn't lifted. It simmered just beneath the surface. He found Kayla already rolling carts of silverware toward the service elevator. Her hair was down today, tucked behind her ears, and she moved slower than the night before. She didn't greet him, just pushed the cart forward and said, "Hope you brought good shoes." Yarden grabbed the other side of the cart without asking. They rolled it down the narrow hallway together. "You always do these back-to-back shifts?" he asked. "Only when the schedule's a disaster, which is most weeks." They reached the elevator and waited. The silence stretched. "You ever think about doing something else?" he asked. "I was before my mom's second surgery. Now, I just need the hours." The elevator dinged open. He didn't respond. He could not without giving himself away. Upstairs, servers set up for a corporate breakfast. A dozen suits paced the room, checking slides on projectors and sipping coffee. Yarden was assigned coffee refills. He took the carafes table to table, listening more than speaking. One man waved him over absently. "Cream?" Yarden pointed to the small pitcher. "Right next to your saucer." The man gave him a look like he hadn't heard him. "Can you just pour it?"
He did. Carefully.
Across the room, Dennis stood by the double doors, arms folded, watching. Not just observing, monitoring. Every move. Yarden finished his circuit and asked a nearby server where to take the used dishes. She nodded toward the back hallway. As he turned, he caught a sharp voice from behind him. "Hey!"
He stopped.
A young woman, maybe in her mid-20s, stood with a tray of dirty plates balanced on one hand. She wore a name tag, Jada. Her eyes were locked on Dennis. "I'm not doing it," she said. Dennis stepped closer. "You're doing what I told you, or you can go home." "Then I'll go home." She shoved the tray onto a rolling cart and walked toward the exit. Yarden moved aside as she passed. Dennis raised his voice. "You leave now, don't bother coming back." She didn't turn around, just kept walking. Yarden waited for the door to close before moving. Back in the kitchen, he found Kayla stacking glasses. She saw his face and narrowed her eyes. "You saw that, didn't you? With Jada?" He nodded. "She's been trying to push back for weeks. Dennis keeps assigning her to double shifts and telling her she's lucky to have hours. Said if she didn't like it, he'd find someone who did." Yarden set the tray down. "Who do people even go to if there's a problem?" "Technically, the regional manager. But no one's seen her in months. Dennis says she trusts his judgment. And HR? Only reachable by email. And they never respond unless it's payroll." He leaned against the counter. "You ever thought about talking to someone higher? Like corporate?" Kayla laughed once, short and dry. "You think any of us have time to figure out who that even is?" Yarden didn't answer. Later that afternoon, a catering delivery came in for a private meeting in one of the smaller suites. Dennis was short-staffed again and pulled Yarden into the task himself. "Don't screw this up. It's the mayor's office," he muttered. They loaded the cart in silence. As they moved through the side hallway, Dennis muttered again. "This is why you don't hire people with attitude problems. Like Jada. Thinks she's too good to serve eggs." Yarden kept his voice neutral. "She seemed tired." Dennis scoffed. "They're all tired. That's not an excuse. You show up, do your job, keep your mouth shut. That's hospitality. They reached the suite. Yarden let Dennis take the lead. Inside, a group of city officials chatted quietly. Nothing fancy, just sandwiches, bottled water, and fruit. The mayor herself wasn't there, just aides. On the way back down, Dennis stopped at the stairwell door and turned to him. You know, if you keep showing up like this, I might keep you beyond temp. I thought I messed up yesterday, Yarden said lightly. Dennis waved a hand. Yeah, but you didn't argue. That's rare. He pushed through the door and went down without waiting. Back in the prep kitchen, Yarden found one of the dishwashers, Luis, sitting on a milk crate, rubbing his wrist. The kid looked no older than 17. You all right? Yarden asked. Luis nodded too quickly. Just need a minute. Yarden crouched next to him. You get a break?
Luis hesitated.
I asked. Dennis said we're two behind. Yarden looked around. 2 carts of dishes sat untouched, and the one working sink was barely keeping up. The air smelled of old lettuce and bleach. You're not supposed to go this long without sitting down. OSHA rules. Luis gave a weak smile. I don't think Dennis cares about OSHA. Yarden stood. You want some water?
Luis nodded. Please.
As Yarden turned to get it, he caught one of the line cooks staring at him. A tall man with a shaved head and a faded red apron. He didn't blink. You knew? The man asked. Yeah. You talk a lot for a new guy. Yarden met his eyes. Just checking on someone. The man said nothing. Just went back to chopping peppers. That evening, after the dinner prep wrapped and staff filtered out, Yarden stayed behind under the guise of finishing a checklist. He needed to see how Dennis acted when no one was watching. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, Dennis came into the office with a clipboard, muttering to himself. Yarden stood in the hallway just out of view, listening. Dennis called someone. Yeah, I cut 3 people for tomorrow. Can't afford OT. No, I don't care if the wedding's got 200 guests. Let them hustle. They'll learn. Yarden's jaw tightened. He waited until Dennis left, then entered the office. On the desk, a schedule was open. 3 names had been crossed off in red. Kayla's was one of them. He left the office quietly, heart pounding. By the time he reached the back exit, the halls were dark. The only sound was the hum of the ice machine and the distant clatter of a mop bucket. He'd seen enough. The next morning, he made the call to corporate. Not secondhand. Not filtered through anyone else. He used his real name and told them to send security to the hotel within the hour. By the time the black SUV pulled into the loading dock behind the hotel, Yarden was already waiting near the service entrance, still in uniform. The driver stepped out first, followed by 2 corporate HR officers and a woman in her 40s with sharp posture and an expression like stone. Her name was Carla Abrams, Vice President of Operations. She didn't ask questions. She just said, "Show me." Yarden led them through the back corridors, bypassing the main lobby. He didn't speak until they reached the prep kitchen. Staff were prepping for that evening's anniversary gala. No one noticed the suits yet. Carla scanned the room. Where's Dennis? Office. Left side hallway. She nodded once, and one of the HR officers peeled off immediately, walking with purpose. Yarden stayed with the rest of the team. Carla folded her arms. I want to see the schedule edits you mentioned. He handed her the printed copy he'd saved the night before. Her eyes flicked over it. No call log.
No HR escalation. No documented warnings.
Just crossed off names. She turned to the remaining officer. Pull the digital scheduling records from the last 2 months. I want to know how many times this has happened. Footsteps echoed back from the hallway. Dennis rounded the corner, trailing the HR officer. His face went pale when he saw Carla. Ma'am, I wasn't told you were visiting today. You weren't supposed to be.
Seat.
He blinked. I'm in the middle of, sit down. Dennis lowered himself onto the metal folding chair near the prep counter. The kitchen staff had started to notice now. Kayla paused mid-pour at the beverage station. Luis watched from the dish pit, a rag still in his hands. Carla didn't wait. I've reviewed 3 separate allegations of payroll deductions, denial of breaks, and retaliatory scheduling. All of it undocumented. You're aware this violates both labor law and our internal policy. Dennis glanced at Yarden, then looked back at Carla. With respect, we've been understaffed. People were making mistakes. I had to enforce standards. You enforce standards by removing pay for accidental breakage? We had to maintain presentation. If the team knows there's a consequence, Carla cut him off. Did you file any of those deductions with payroll? He didn't answer. That's what I thought. Yarden stepped forward. He's also been assigning 14-hour shifts without breaks, telling staff that if they speak up, they'll be replaced. I saw it firsthand. Dennis stood suddenly. Wait, what are you even doing here? Who are you? Yarden pulled off the name tag clipped to his shirt and dropped it on the prep table. I'm the owner. The room went dead quiet. Kayla's mouth parted slightly, but she said nothing. Luis dropped the rag. Dennis turned as if to leave, but the HR officer stepped in front of him. Carla's voice remained steady. As of this moment, you're relieved of duty. Your keycard access is revoked. We'll mail your final paycheck after a full audit. You're firing me? Without even hearing my side. Yarden stepped closer. I heard your side. Every time you threatened someone. Every time you told someone to shut up and work. That was your side. Dennis looked around the room for support. No one offered it. He left without another word. The moment he was gone, Carla turned to the staff. I need 5 minutes with everyone on shift. Separately. We're going to do this right. Yarden stayed quiet as the interviews began. Each staff member was pulled aside into the conference room across the hall. When it was Kayla's turn, she walked in without hesitation. Inside, Carla motioned for her to sit. We're not here to scare you. We want facts. Kayla nodded, hands in her lap. I don't want anyone else getting hurt. I'm listening. I've seen Dennis scream at people for dropping spoons. One time last month, a girl tripped carrying a tray, and he told her she had to pay for the broken plates. She didn't come back after that. Carla made a note. Did he ever document any of these payments?
No.
He just took it out of our cash tips or told payroll to adjust. And did you ever report this? I didn't know who to report to. He said corporate didn't care about part-time staff. Carla looked up. He was wrong. After she left the room, Yarden stepped in. Carla didn't sugarcoat it. There's more than enough here for wrongful labor practice. We'll be doing a formal investigation, but I've heard enough to justify immediate changes. I want to speak to everyone before the next shift starts. They'll be in the main banquet space in 10 minutes. When the team gathered in the grand ballroom, they found Yarden standing at the head of the room, no longer in uniform. He wore a gray blazer and open-collar shirt the same way he dressed at investor meetings. A few of them exchanged quick glances. Kayla stayed near the back of the group, arms crossed. Luis stood beside her. Yarden didn't use a microphone. He didn't need to. I came here undercover because something didn't feel right. I wanted to see this place the way you live it. And I did. No one moved. I saw people working 12-hour shifts without a single break. I saw threats made over accidents. I saw fear where there should have been pride. Kayla lowered her arms slowly. That ends today. Dennis is no longer with the company. We're bringing in a new interim manager with experience in high-volume hospitality and a track record of building strong teams. A few heads turned. Starting this week, we're implementing a zero deduction policy. That means no more pay cuts for breakage, no more threats. If there's a mistake, we train. We don't punish.
Luis exhaled quietly.
We're also launching an anonymous reporting line that goes straight to regional leadership, not through local management. You'll be trained on it this Friday. And next month, We're bringing in a third-party compliance inspector to review every property unannounced. Someone clapped once, hesitant. Then a few more joined. It wasn't loud, but it was real. Yarden held up a hand. Last thing, Kayla. Can I see you for a moment? She stepped forward slowly. You've held this place up for 2 years. You trained new staff, covered shifts, tried to protect people even when you were exhausted. I didn't know that until this week. I should've. She didn't respond. That's why I'm offering you the senior floor supervisor role, effective immediately. Full-time, benefits, and a salary review in 60 days. She blinked. Just like that? No, not just like that. You earned it a long time ago. I just finally saw it. She looked around the room, then back at him. All right. The team dispersed slowly after that, quieter than before, but not with the same tension. Conversations started to return. People lingered. Yarden walked through the kitchen as the evening shift arrived. The new interim manager, a woman named Teresa, was already reviewing the prep list with a clipboard and zero tolerance for confusion. She didn't greet him with fanfare, just nodded once, then went back to work. He liked her already. As he stepped outside into the fading light, Yarden pulled out his phone. He didn't call anyone, just stood there, letting the quiet settle. He'd seen the worst of what neglect could do to a team, but he'd also seen the people still standing in spite of it. The real work was just beginning. The following Monday, Yarden returned to the hotel without disguise. No uniform, no alias, just himself. He walked through the same side entrance he'd used as an undercover server, passing by the prep kitchen where steam curled up from the dish pit and voices echoed in a steadier, calmer rhythm than before. The air felt different. Not fixed but quieter, more focused. Like a room that had been holding its breath for too long, finally exhaling. He made his way to the back office where Teresa, the new interim manager, was reviewing a clipboard with 2 lead cooks. She didn't look up until she was finished giving instructions. You're early, she said, setting the clipboard aside. Wanted to check in before the next event. We're short 3 tonight. 2 flu call-outs, 1 no-show. Kayla's helping me shuffle the floor plan. Need help with that? Teresa gave a slight nod. You'll find her by the freight elevator. She's mapping new table assignments. Yarden crossed the hallway. He found Kayla crouched near a corkboard, adjusting name cards pinned next to a diagram of the ballroom. Her hair was down again, and she wore a slate gray polo with her new name tag clipped cleanly above her chest. Kayla Whitmore, floor supervisor. She didn't hear him approach. You always plan this fast. She looked up and stood. Only when I don't have time to second-guess it. How's the team holding up? Still tired. Still stretched thin. But they're showing up. That's something. He nodded and tapped the edge of the diagram. How many per table? 8 tops. We've got to cover 26 tables with 6 servers. I'm pulling one of the kitchen runners to do water refills. That's doable? Not ideal, but it won't fall apart. A voice called out from down the hall. Luis jogged over, wiping his hands on his apron. Kayla, the ice machine's down again. She turned to Yarden. That's the 4th time in 2 weeks. We've been logging it, but no service call yet. I'll escalate it, and we'll look into replacing it if it's that far gone. Luis looked between the two of them, hesitating. What is it? Kayla asked. There's a guy in the loading zone. Says he's here for setup, but I don't know him. He doesn't have a badge. Show me. They followed him through the back corridor to the loading dock. A man in a dark hoodie leaned against an equipment case, scrolling through his phone. He glanced up when they approached. Name? Kayla asked. Marcus. I'm with the lighting crew. Got called in last minute. By who? He shrugged. Didn't catch the name. Just said to be here by 4. Yarden eyed him. You have any ID? Marcus reached into his back pocket and handed over a folded-up letter. It was a printed work order and signed, with no company letterhead. Teresa stepped through the door behind them. She took one look at the scene and walked right up to Marcus. "You were supposed to be approved through our vendor list. You're not on it." "I was told," she cut him off. "I don't care what you were told. You're not cleared, and you're not stepping foot inside this building." He opened his mouth again, but she raised her hand. "We've had 3 security breaches in the last 2 months. We're not adding a 4th. Kayla flagged down one of the security staff who had just arrived for his shift, and within minutes, Marcus was escorted off the property, without incident. Yarden pulled Teresa aside. "You handle that fast. Too many people trying to slide in under the radar. We're tightening access this week. I've already requested updated background checks on all third-party vendors."
Good.
"That needs to be a permanent policy." She nodded once and walked off without fanfare. Back inside, the team was beginning final prep for the evening event, a retirement gala for a local hospital administrator. The event wasn't massive, but the guest list was full of city officials, donors, and medical leadership. Expectations were high. Kayla moved between prep stations, calling out timing checks and coordinating with the kitchen crew. Yarden watched her redirect 2 new hires with firm clarity: no barking, no edge, just instruction. She caught his eye for a second, but didn't stop working. As the evening unfolded, the service floor moved with a rhythm that was far from perfect, but functional. There were hiccups: a tray of bread rolls went missing, one water station ran dry, and a confused guest wandered into the staff hallway, but nothing collapsed. Around 9:30, as dessert service wound down, Yarden stepped outside for air. The night was cool, with a light breeze carrying the scent of fresh-cut grass from the landscaping crew that had come earlier in the day. He stood near the parking lot, hands in his pockets. Kayla joined him a few minutes later, holding a paper cup of tea. "I didn't think you'd still be here," she said. "I wanted to see how things ran without Dennis breathing down everyone's neck."
She took a sip.
"It's slower. But people aren't as scared. That helps." He looked over at her. "What made you stay this long? Before all this?" She hesitated, then answered without looking at him. "I think I was waiting for someone to notice. Or hoping someone would." He nodded. "You deserved better a long time ago." "A lot of people did." They stood in silence for a moment. "I've been thinking," he said. "We're rebuilding the training program next quarter. I want someone from the floor involved in designing it. Practical input. You interested?" She raised an eyebrow. "You mean like lead sessions? Or help shape them? Decide what matters? What's worth teaching? What's just noise?" She didn't answer right away. "Then, yeah, I am." A door opened behind them. Luis poked his head out. "Kayla, one of the guests is asking if we can box up the last cake tray." She raised her cup in mock salute. "Back to it." He watched her go, then turned and walked back inside. In the following weeks, changes rolled forward carefully, not all at once. The anonymous reporting line went live. The first compliance inspection was scheduled. Teresa stayed on for a 3-month contract while they searched for a permanent hire. Kayla reviewed training drafts with the new HR liaison, adding notes in red ink about what actually happened on the floor versus what manuals said should happen. A few staff left, some because of burnout, others because they hadn't expected so much attention. But new applicants started trickling in steadily. Word had spread that something had shifted at the hotel. Not perfect, but different. One evening, as Yarden reviewed reports in the upstairs conference lounge, a knock came at the door. It was Luis, holding a sealed envelope. "What's this?" Yarden asked. "No idea. It was left at the front desk with your name on it." He took it and opened it. Inside was a short handwritten note. "To whoever changed what needed to be changed, thank you. We see it." There was no signature. Yarden folded the note carefully and slid it into the inside pocket of his jacket. He didn't need to know who it was from. He already knew.